It is time for the last reading wrap up of the year. This is all of the books that I read in December. I think I read 8 or 9. Before I start, I'll just say, please excuse my icky sounding voice. I am currently getting over a cold and it was a rough one, so I'm not at 100% right now, but we're gonna try to get through this video with the least amount of coughing possible, hopefully. So starting off my December, I decided to go into it reading some poetry, and I read Poems for a World Gone to Shit. This is a collection of poetry by a bunch of different poets from over the years. So like there's Emily Dickinson in here, Shakespeare, the works, right? And it all kind of goes with the theme of, you know, the world's not as great as we wish it was, and it's kind of going downhill at times, but then towards the end there's more poems about hope and how the world is still beautiful even though it is pretty messed up. So I really loved this one. I wasn't expecting it to be a collection of multiple poets from across the years. I thought it was just going to be by one author, and it turned out it wasn't. So I ended up rating this one 5 stars just because it was a lot of really good poems in one bind up. I'll just quickly read you the first poem in this book. It's really short. This is what sold me on this book right when I picked it up. I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna go with this one because I laughed my ass off when I first read this. So it's called This Be the Verse by Philip Larkin. They fuck you up, your mom and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra, just for you. But they were fucked up in their own turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time were soppy stern and half at one another's throats. Man hands on, misery to man, it deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out as early as you can, and don't have any kids yourself. Beautiful. I was not expecting that, so when I first picked it up and read that, I knew I was gonna love that collection, and lo and behold, I did. Next, I listened to the audiobook Christmas Days, 12 Stories and 12 Feasts for 12 Days by Jeanette Winterson. This one was recommended to me, and I did really enjoy some of the stories, but my goodness, can we talk about how depressing most Christmas stories are? Like, what is up with that? It's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, and yet the Christmas stories that are out there, ooh, oh my goodness. Some of them are so sad, and like they don't have the happiest of endings all the time either. But anyway, this one I rated 3 stars because I did really enjoy it, but there were a few that weren't my favorite. It definitely was your typical collection of Christmas stories where you resonate with some and not so much with others. So if I were to ever read it again, I'd probably skip a few of them. But all in all, it was a really fun time, and I listened to it throughout mostly like the first half of December while I did like baking and cleaning and stuff like that, just to kind of try to get myself into the Christmas mood, and for the most part it kind of worked. Then I read The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. This book was 5 stars. So much fun. It is very close to being kind of like an Agatha Christie, a whodunit that's pretty chill and relaxing. It's not like it's high stakes, but it's not scary high stakes. And of course it's romance as well, so there is a bit of cheesiness in there, but it's like the perfect amount of Christmas cheesiness, if you'd ask me. And I really loved both main characters, which is hard to do in a romance novel, especially if we're seeing the perspective of the man, because that's not normally really up my alley, but in this one I think Ali Carter did a pretty good job on it. Then I read Advice from a Blob, How to Find Peace in This Messy, Beautiful, Chaotic Existence. This one is so much fun. It's a lot like Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too, or something along the lines of like a Sarah Anderson graphic novel. It's just cutesy little drawings, but actually some of them pack a punch and have quite a lot of meaning. It was just a fun little 20-minute read, but definitely brightened my mood when I read it, and it's one I think I'm going to try to pick up probably once a year, just like Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too, just as like a little palate cleanser and B, a little pick-me-up from time to time. A lot of fun. Highly recommend it if you're into that stuff. And also, obviously, 5 stars. Then I read another collection of poetry called Rooms of the Mind by Mackenzie Campbell. This one was pretty good. There were certain sections that I liked more than others, so I ended up rating it 3 stars for that. I think I preferred like the first half over the last half, which is probably bad because the first half is more about like loneliness and sadness and stuff like that, but it hit me harder in the feels than the back half did, if that makes sense. Then I listened to the audiobook Cat Deck the Halls by Shirley Rousseau Murphy. This one I rated 2 stars. I thought it was going to be a little bit more whimsical than what it was, but it actually turned out to be more serious than I had anticipated. It's about cats who solve murder, and obviously you'd think that that would come with quite a bit of whimsy, but kind of. This is also, I think, the 13th book in a series, and I didn't realize that they weren't going to be, they're kind of standalones, but I also felt like I was missing stuff, so I feel like that also contributed to my low rating. It was alright. I don't think I'd pick up another book from the series just because it wasn't exactly my cup of tea. It was also like 200 pages too long. Like, this book, in my opinion, should have been a short story. I feel like it would have stayed a lot more interesting if it had been. Then I read the manga A Man and His Cat by Umi Sakurai. This was so much fun, and the greatest part is that this little kitty looks like my cat Awen, who was just over here 2 seconds ago. I didn't know what to expect going into this one. I had no idea what it was about, and it was so cute. And if you are a cat lover or you have had cats in your life, this would be so much fun for you because this author depicts so many scenarios that I have personally experienced with some of my cats, and some of them are just so funny. Others are kind of sad, I'm not gonna lie, but there are a lot more volumes after this one, so I'm definitely going to see if I can get my hands on some of them because, oh my goodness, this was such a good time. I didn't have high expectations going into this manga, but it's gotta be one of the cutest manga I've ever read in my entire life. And then the last thing I read in December was Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. I finally finished this book. I think I started it back in like September, which kind of bad. I considered rereading the first 2 chapters because that's as far as I got the first time I picked it up, but I decided not to because I kind of remembered what happened, and eventually I picked it back up. I had no idea what this book was about. I did not read the synopsis at all, and I had never been spoiled for it. It was definitely shocking when I got to, let me just find the chapter. I'm not going to tell you what happens because you might want to read it someday and not know what's going to happen either. Yeah, okay, when I got to chapter 5, I was so confused. I did not know what the heck was going on. And then I just kind of had to go with the flow and trust it. I thought I missed something, honestly. No, just something insane happens that you wouldn't know if you didn't read the synopsis, and that's what happened to me, and I was taken on a ride, an absolute ride, and it was a good book. It was very well written, as are most of Colleen Hoover's books. I would not say all of them, but most of them. But I rated it 4 stars just because I did find certain parts kind of cringy. She did depict the anger and loneliness that comes from grief in a very accurate way at points, which I appreciated. Obviously, grief is not linear and it can be quite messy at times, so she did a very good job in that sense. I don't know, definitely an uncomfortable read, but I didn't want to put it down. So 4 stars. But that is going to do it for my December reading wrap up. Let me know in the comments what you read in December and what your ratings were for them. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks I am going to do my 2024 yearly reading wrap up, which I'm hopefully just going to do a rapid fire through all of the books that I read because I ended up getting to 101 books. I cannot believe that. My goal was 52, so 101 is amazing. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do it again, but who knows? Right? You never know. But I will try to film that. Hopefully my throat goes back to normal before I get to that because I don't think I could talk for like a half an hour straight like this. But anyway, that is going to do it for me. I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy reading.